and welcome back to my channel. This time around, I have not one but two book recommendations for you all. Let's see what they are. The first one is The Journey, Big Panda and Tiny Dragon. And the second one is Following the Moon. And both these books have been written and illustrated by James Norbury. Now with Christmas just around the corner, I think both these books make for excellent presents. In fact, Following the Moon was gifted to me by a colleague during our office Secret Santa celebrations. So if you're looking for a really good gift for a friend or a relative, no matter what the age group, anywhere between 8 to 80, I think both these books make for excellent presents, and I'm sure they'll bring a lot of delight to the receiver. My first recommendation, like I mentioned earlier, is The Journey, Big Panda and Tiny Dragon. As the name suggests, it sort of goes through the story of both these really cute characters and the different encounters that they have in the journey together. The themes that you will find in this book are mindfulness and mental health, change and growth, friendship, letting go of the past, resilience, and some really important themes that I believe no matter where you are in your life's journey, you will find some sort of really interesting nugget that will give you some clarity, something that you maybe needed to hear once again. In fact, I had read this book earlier on in the year, and because I wanted to make the video today, I picked it up and I reread it, and I just realized, wow, it really resonates to the situation that I'm in personally in my life. So no matter where you are, no matter what age group, in fact, I think this makes for a great book for children because the themes that it talks about, like I mentioned, mental health, mindfulness, resilience, courage, change and growth, all these things, if you want to introduce them in an interesting format to young children, I can think of no other book that can really beautifully do so. Now, why is this a great book to gift as well? Look at the cover. A, it's beautiful, and also the paper quality and the illustrations on the inside is just exceptional. Let me just give you a quick glance as to what it looks in the inside. Let me look for a beautiful page. What else? So I think this is a great book for anyone to pick up over the holiday season if you're just looking for a light read. Okay, speaking of a light read, it has about, 150 pages if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 150 something pages in here. It's a very easy read. Honestly, it will take you about 30-40 minutes to just go through the entire book. But don't go by the simplicity of it. It has some really profound lines in there. It's got some really profound lessons. And it's, like I mentioned, it's beautifully illustrated. And the journey itself keeps you really hooked. Another thing that I found really interesting is the author has used different color palettes during the description of the different emotions of the two protagonists, which is really interesting because when they're going through some struggles, it turns into a very dark palette. When they come out on the other side, the colors change. In fact, there is a little description that the author has given at the very end, talking about how this book came about, the story that he wanted to sort of portray. And he talks about how at the starting of the book, when the protagonists are in a specific situation, the color scheme that he uses is very different to the color scheme at the very end, because he wanted to depict the change and the transformation that they have gone through, both mentally and individually. And I think that's such a small and beautiful detail. I'm going to read the first couple of pages of the book so that you know how it begins, and two of my favorite quotes from the book, or sections rather than quotes, and hopefully that gives you enough of an insight as to what the book is like. Let's begin. It starts by saying, for those on their own journey. There was a temple high in the mountains, surrounded by a vast forest and a deep, still lake. The temple had seen better days, but that didn't matter to the two friends who made that ancient place their home. Big Panda and Tiny Dragon. During the day, they would travel high into the mountains and explore the thick, tangled forests, hoping to catch a glimpse of the creatures that lived there. At night, they would watch the stars and drink the hot tea the Tiny Dragon so carefully prepared. One winter evening, under a full moon, Tiny Dragon turned to his friend and said, "This place is incredible, Big Panda. The trees, the mountains, the birds, and the animals. They are all so magical. We are so lucky. So why do I feel like something is missing? Why do I feel incomplete?" Big Panda nodded and took a sip of tea. "That is a good question, little one, and the answer is simple yet difficult. Sleep now, and tomorrow is a new day, and we'll see what we can do." And this is how the journey of the two friends start. I'll skip through two important pages that really spoke out to me. In some ways, the mind is much like a garden. It needs your care, attention, and effort. Left to its own devices, it will soon become overturned with weeds. And where there are too many weeds, flowers cannot grow. Let's see, I did mark another page, hold on. There we go. This is slightly on the latter half of the book. "I still feel some sadness at the loss of my friends, my home, and of course my tea set. But I think maybe I'm learning to be more accepting of things. It seems like the more I unclench my hands," said Tiny Dragon, "the more the world seems to place into it." The journey. This talks about two protagonists, again two animals. It talks about a small puppy and a wolf and their journey together. The themes are very similar to the journey. However, one very different theme that this book talks about that wasn't in the previous one is death and love and loss, which might seem like very heavy themes to encounter, but the truth is it's done in a very sensitive manner and dealt with in a way that it's easily digestible no matter what age group you're reading to. Like I said, it's the story of a puppy and how he becomes friends with a fox, their journey together, and how that friendship blossoms into something so beautiful, and ultimately how their journeys sort of go in different directions. I don't want to give away too much. And how there's another character, a very sweet character that sort of comes in between, and that's life, right? You meet people, you spend time with them, your journeys sort of go ahead together, and at some point, for whatever reason, you might go in different directions, but you learn from each other and you grow from each other, and new people come into your life. And I think this book has really shown that journey of relationships so beautifully, and that's what I think sets it apart from the journey. Tiny Dragon and Big Panda and Tiny Dragon. Sorry for the confusion in the name. That's a lot of words to say at one go. So, like I did in the previous one, let's do a little reading of the book so that you know what you can look forward to. I'm going to read a small portion from the book, and hopefully you like it as much as I did. "Well," said the wolf, "you see the moon? Did you know it has no light of its own? It can only reflect the light of the sun. But the moon is at peace with this, and just as beautiful as the sun." "Why does the moon do that for the sun?" said Amaya. "It tells her of the stars and how the world looks under the veil of the moonlight." Amaya smiled. "They both are very lucky." "They are," agreed the wolf, "because they have chosen to give one another." "Do you see those flowers growing in the dark corner?" asked the wolf. "Without the fireflies, we wouldn't be able to see them. Sometimes it is the presence of another that lets us shine. If you remember this, Amaya, it will help you not to resent it when another thrives, but to welcome it and be glad for them. Another's gifts must be just what we need to unlock our own. In recent times, actually, I've come across a couple of books which have very similar themes, which is you have a protagonist, there are a couple of animals, they go on a journey, they learn from each other, there are some really profound lessons in there. The best example that I can give you of a book that's very similar to this is The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse. If you haven't seen my review of that on my channel, I will link it down below, and that book is my absolute favorite. Not only the hard copy, but the audiobook and the short story, the short movie that they made out of which actually received an Oscar. It was a great story and it was really beautifully done. I'm so much looking forward for the author to come up with a second book in that series. And these books are very similar to that. I don't know which one came first, and there's another book called The Oxherd Boy, which is also in the same lines, right? It's a book that has illustrations in it, different protagonists on a journey and what they learn from each other. But in terms of preference, I would say The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, the Horse is my number one. Number two would be The Journey, and number three would be this. I unfortunately wasn't a very big fan of The Oxherd Boy. I felt like it somehow lacked the depth that these books have. But I don't mean to sort of throw shade on that book. I'm sure a lot of people have liked that. But one thing I would like to say is, and I'm a firm believer in this, is things come to you when you're ready to receive it. So you might find that once you pick up these books, you will get something that you actually have been searching for. Either an answer, some sort of solace, some kind of direction. So get the book and see what it sort of brings into your life. Like I mentioned, once I started to read The Journey at the beginning of this day, of shoot day, it reminded me of a couple of things that really needed to bring me back home, to get me a little centered, and I certainly hope that these books bring the same to you. Okay, until next time when I'm back with more recommendations, please keep reading, keep shining, keep smiling, and do stay safe.